Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the first Gems of War event of version 4.1. So we do have a few different things than normal, plus they have a bunch of festive things for the holiday of Halloween. But anyways, let's get into it. We have ourselves a Grimlet Stormbrew added to the game. He's basically like one of the Mercy related troops, but he's actually pretty decent compared to some of the other ones that have questionable secondary effects. As far as his Arcane Tradestone, he is an epic, so they only cost 200 glory each, so if you've been needing to stock up on red yellow, definitely make sure to do so. There are a lot of really good mythics that end up using it, though other than that, earlier on in the game, you'd most likely want to throw these on Valkyrie or Grimlet himself, and later on in the game, you definitely want to get something like a Divinia upgrade, and of course all the mythics that happen to use that specific tradestone. But other than that, he transforms all green to brown immediately. He has the empowered capability, so he can do that from the start of the board in order to give your team a lot of brown, and that is obviously very, very useful because there's things like Mountain Crusher, Dragon Eye, Gorgolfa, and any number of other brown things that you can use it with. Given his secondary effect, you will mainly be using this onto Skull Spam related troops, mainly because it enrages the first ally as well as give it a bunch of life. So kind of like Mercy in that it does the life gain, but it has the enrage on first ally instead of the cleanse to all allies. There's still many instances where Mercy would obviously be better, but this, in the case of Skull Spam teams and possibly a few other instances, it would end up being better because of the brown capabilities. Other than that, it also has the benefit of having a lot of immunes, as immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, and devour. The most noteworthy of those probably being the devour and death mark specifically. So it has that to be able to go and negate out instant kill capabilities, or at least a good majority of them. But anyways, that is him. Definitely worth picking up. You also get extra gold this week if you end up using him. Several things that we actually get extra resources for. They ended up adding in a new kind of thing that can appear. So basically there's going to be battle crashers here and there. I don't know if this is going to be literally every single week or if they're just going to run it during certain events, like right now obviously Halloween, so they're doing the Spooky Imp, the seasonal Spooky Imp. And basically, they come around as like gnomes, except they're only in PvP and Explore, or wherever they specifically designate them to. And if you end up finding one, you get a little bit of extra resources. They do not override the already existing gnomes. And I believe if both trigger at once, the gnome would appear instead of this. I'm not fully certain on that. But basically, bottom line, they're not really getting in the way of gnomes, and they're basically free resources on top of what we would already be gaining, and it would just make some PvP battles as well as Explore battles slightly easier, because at least in this case, this troop is relatively weak, so not much to really worry about when killing it. So yeah, you get 50 extra souls this week whenever you find one, and kill one. It's not a lot, but still, it's more than literally zero. And as far as bonuses, we have 10% to all KZL as well as 10% to all dwarves, which is nice since most of KZL is dwarves, about 3/4 of it or so. We get extra gold whenever we use the Grimlet in Explore. You can do this with bomb bots pretty easily. You can also do it with War and Peace if you want to go down that route, but it's going to be pretty decent for just farming Explore if you want to go get a little bit extra gold. For the most part, you wouldn't do that though because the event is related to PvP. So, and unfortunately, you do not get 400 extra gold for using him in PvP specifically. And of course, as I mentioned, all you have to do is kill a bunch of things in PvP. It can be casual PvP, normal ranked, or however you want to go about it. But as long as you get 750 kills, that is a lot of gems. 120 all at once is pretty decent. Plus, you get some gem keys along the ways. Anyways, as far as event keys are concerned this week, they are somewhat okay to open, kind of. The main thing you would want to get if you would go and open these would be a Gorgolfa. Gorgolfa is one of the better tanks in the game, having a 75% score reduction while also having a really nice explosion. So you might want to consider that. If you don't want to have to spend glory for it, you would also get more copies of Grimlet. Also, the Lord Ironbeard and Lady Ironbeard tend to be used on Red Guild War Day quite a bit, simply because this guy is really good at countering reds as well as monsters, and she's just really good at one-shotting as well. They both basically have the same premise of an ability where they have some kind of condition and then they deal triple damage if that condition is met, and it has happened to be really well for Red Guild War Day defense. But other than that, there isn't really too much. You'd mainly just want to try finding out a Gorgolfa and maybe a High Forge because it is used on defense occasionally, and it's also pretty decent damage. It's kind of like a weaker version of Dragon Soul in early game, if you happen to get this instead of a Dragon Soul. He doesn't have any board control or anything, but he has a really nice summon. He gets half mana start and is just overall a pretty decent double kill option. Instead of like Yagway, which kills it from the front, he'll end up just killing them from the back, like how Kraken does, and stuff like that. But anyways, those are event keys. As far as the guild-related event, we of course have Invasions. And with invasions, we have a kind of interesting combination that we could use this week. As far as the weapon, nothing really too relevant, though of course for collection purposes you still want to pick it up. All allies gain a bunch of armor, and also all allies gain 8 attack and 2 mana for every enemy barrier. I think the only time this will be particularly good is maybe in early to mid game if you're up against a Dragonian Monk, which barriers the entire team, or really any option that barriers the entire team. But for something like this game mode, as well as anywhere where the other team isn't specifically gaining all barriers, I wouldn't really bother with this. It could potentially be used in late game against Dawnbringer and stuff too, but for the most part, I don't really feel like it's going to see much usage, and all the perks that it has is pretty underwhelming. So yeah, I wouldn't really bother with it. It's too defensive to really ever bother bringing out. But in Invasions, we actually have something slightly different for once. We have a Festive Tower. We have the Haunted Tower. It is basically like the other towers, except it ends up also doing, or the normal thing that it ends up doing is deal damage to an enemy, and then summons a Bat Swarm. Bat Swarm is that one thing that does true damage to all enemies, kind of like a Crimson Bat, except weaker, and then it transforms into Nosferatu, and then Nosferatu either goes into a Bat Swarm again, or into Umbra Wolf, so nothing really too overwhelming. It's actually a relatively weak tower compared to most of them. The only annoying part about it more so is its +1 little magic link, which can go pretty well into mage towers. Anyways, as far as the team I am planning on using, I'm using the Bomber one, which ends up exploding some reds. Pretty standard invasion troop, except unfortunately no skull mitigation, but at least has a decent board clear, if nothing else. We have all the browns we'll ever need off our beginning transform, and he has empowered for it. I have Apothecary, just in case that's not enough brown, we'll have even more brown. And we could go a couple different weapons. We could go Mang second slot, we could even just throw, what's it called? Earth's Fury. We could even just go with a damaging weapon, but I end up going down the route of Cauldron for now. At least for these earlier battles. I don't know if I'll switch it a little bit later. I feel like I will, but basically the whole premise of this is to make sure this guy doesn't die, so we can just keep constantly one-shotting. So right off the bat, we're going to go and get all the browns immediately. Get all the mana we pretty much need. Everything already to max, essentially. And what I want to do, if we have the board cleared right now, is go throw our first Cauldron so that he can now start one-shotting everything. We also end up getting Enrage, of course, every single time we cast this, so we'll have even more damage and basically be able to one-shot everything for all of these battles. So we'll just keep killing tower by tower. Of course, later on that will require like 2 or 3 hits, but he gains enough mana back and cascades that he normally gets his mana back in like a turn or two, especially with how much brown accumulation. There's almost always a method to be able to get the mana back. Also, do make sure that you don't accidentally Apothecary to green. If you need to go and convert the green, you just simply use the, what's his name? The Grimlet for that. But we'll keep going for the towers. I guess we'll leave that alive. I don't think we're going to see its ability. It's just a useless swarm. It's actually probably the weakest tower, so it's kind of nice that it appears, because, well, it makes things easier. So we'll go get a nice Apothecary there. Get another hit, instantly dies, and oddly enough, the one that isn't a tower is the strongest one, because all of our capabilities do more damage against towers, but not to non-towers. So we'll just go convert this. We do have alignment right over there. That gives him Enrage, though. Oh no, that actually did make it so we have enough damage now. So that's nice. So I guess we just go and try finding a skull at this point, because that's the only way we're going to kill it quickly. That, or we could just go and keep poking it, which we might just have to do, because it does not want to give us a skull right now. I can't even get a convert in there. We could go do a bottom one here and just see if... Oh, wait. That's not the ability I meant to do. I meant to cast Apothecary. That would have been funny if the explosion would have went right there and actually gotten that skull. That would have been such a small chance that actually would have happened, though. But this is why I meant to do that previous turn. And we get a skull out of it. Perfect. With excessive overkill. And you can just keep doubling that thing's attack until it reaches 1,000. Though obviously you'd be one-shotting way before then. But yeah, that's pretty much invasions for the week. Pretty easy given the options that we have. So pretty nice week for it. Other than that, let's go over to, let's see, events for the week. We actually have several. We have so many things going on this week, but Tuesday we have the, is the least consequential one. It's the Crypt event. I believe we already had one, so yeah, just another Crypt if you want to go do that. Oh, there actually is one noteworthy thing about this. They redid how scoring occurs in faction events. This is actually the first faction event since 4.1, and they completely overhauled how the scoring works. I will be going over that more tomorrow once it actually gets released, so I can see it more in action. But basically, long story short, is do not camp level 20. If you're going to camp a level, make sure to go a little bit higher, like 50 or 100 or something. But you do not want to camp level 20 because the amount of points you will get is exceptionally lower compared to what it was before. You'll want to go to the highest that you can realistically kill, and then if you need to camp it, you can, or otherwise just keep moving forward if you have the capability and troops to actually keep just going forward in the delve. But it will reward you properly for actually going forward instead of just camping level 20. So no longer can you camp level 20. You can technically still do it, though the amount of sigils and gems you'll waste is absurd to the point where you'd probably never do it again. But we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Anyways, Wednesday, cosmetic pet for Halloween. It's actually exactly on Halloween, and we're just getting a voodoo doll. It doesn't do anything other than be a voodoo doll on your shoulder. Thursday, we have nothing, but that is because on Friday, we're getting two things. One is the new class event for the Thief class, which is unfortunately a Goblin class. It's probably going to be one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 hero classes in the game. It's not going to be better than Titan, but it's going to be pretty far up there. Also, the weapon that it's bringing into the game could potentially be one of the best PvP weapons in the game. It's only going to be used for PvP because you'll need like 1 or 2 Cedrics to make it work, but it's basically a double hit weapon with automatic extra turn that, with enough gold boost ratio, will essentially just double kill whatever it touches. Kind of like a Ferris Raw, except it hits 2 and it's auto extra turn and it has a bunch of other stuff going for it. So it's going to be kind of interesting how that pans out. Not sure if they're going to rebalance it before then, but if they release it like that, it's going to be a really fun weapon to mess around with. But we'll see how that goes. Other than that, we're getting a new mythic this Friday. It's relatively useless. It's mainly just a transform mythic. Obviously, transform would have been amazing if transforms in Delves wasn't nerfed, but they did. So I don't know if they're going to be rebalancing that mythic or not before it gets released. But in the current state that it might be released in, it looks 100% useless. So it's probably a good one to skip. The only really useful thing about it is it's a Darkstone mythic, and Darkstone it currently is stuck at level 8 because we don't have a hero class for it. But if we were to ever get a hero class in 4, 5, 6 months, the next 3 hero classes aren't going to be it. But if it comes in relatively soon, in several months, then it will instantly jump up to like 13 or 14 stars or something. So, and you wouldn't be able to go further than 10 if they were to add a hero class and you didn't have that mythic. Though I would probably just craft into Soulforge, but do keep in mind it will eventually be required for like 13, 14 star Darkstone once that hero class does finally get introduced to the game. Other than that, we have ourselves the Soulforge. Soulforge, we have several good things to go and craft this week. We also have Spooky Imp. He's a seasonal imp, but no real need to go get that. The main ones you'd want to really consider is almost everything, actually. But there's 3 main ones, I would say. Guard's Avatar, Ferris Raw, and Jotnar. Of the 3, Ferris Raw definitely being the best. It's generally the first thing you craft or the second thing you craft after like an Infernus or something. Main reason being is he's the best soul farming troop in the entire game, being able to accumulate 150% bonus souls. You do need to fully trade it, but you can just simply do the first trait and then use 2 orange orbs, or if you have a larger orange orb, just simply use that on him. But definitely highly advised to get this as soon as possible before you bother doing your soul grinding, because it will exponentially increase the rate at which you can accumulate souls. Just simply having one of them can increase your soul rate from about 10 to 20,000 all the way up to about 30 to 40,000. So it is very highly advised to end up picking up one of these things as soon as possible, possibly even 2, though definitely 1 before you start farming something like a Dawnbringer or trying to accumulate all the souls you ever need to level everything up. But yeah, definitely get this thing. It can also be used in PvP context, as it's relatively good at one-shotting troops, since it gets a gigantic boost ratio off of all of its souls, and it can hit somewhere in the low 100s, which more often than not is enough to one-kill most things within the game. Other than that, the main reason you'd need Guard's Avatar or Jotnar is not for the troops themselves, but because White Helm 10, 11, and 12 star requires Guard's Avatar, and Stormheim 10 star requires Jotnar. And Guard's Avatar would give you 1 extra armor, and Jotnar would give you 1 extra HP across all of your battles, assuming your star level was high enough on those kingdoms. So those are the 2 main reasons why you would bother getting those. Other than that, Great Maul, pretty good Devour, has a 100% rate, can only be done once, but 100% Devour is still very solid. And other than that, Elamagrim, used great for Purple Day. There's really just way too many things to craft this week that are actually good. But generally, if you're struggling on Purple Guild War Day, that's one of the best things to get. It can also be used on Dragon teams, but you mainly use it if you have a fully traded Infernus, since it requires burns to be fully effective, and obviously Infernus is the best burner in the game. And other than that, to combine with the Elamagrim, you can even go get yourself an Umbra Wolf, which was also used on Purple Guild War Day to synergize with Elamagrim, so you have Perpetual Purple Storm and basically just auto-loop the entire battle down. And I guess since we're already naming everything off, Hyndla is also really good. It's used in 4 times Giant team. The main thing that makes it really good is, for one, it has a Giant summon, and most Giants are relatively decent. And the other thing is it gains 2 life and 2 magic to all Giants every extra turn it does. That is insanely high, mainly the 2 magic aspect of it. Even if that was 1 magic, that'd be relatively high, but all that together just exponentially increases the potential of any Giant team. But long story short, Ferris Raw is the best one, but there's a lot of things to consider crafting otherwise, if you already have a Ferris Raw or 2 Ferris Raws. Anyways, though, with all that out the way, let's finally get into some teams. Obviously, the new Grimlet is a very, very solid troop. It's basically like a Mercy, so let's use it with a Mercy. But no, basically any team that you're going to use this thing with is essentially going to be a... it's going to be... Oh, and there's the Spooky Imp. Oh, we haven't even seen one yet? Really? Wait, this troop isn't supposed to be in the battle. Defeat this battle crasher to gain extra loot. It's only 50 souls, but hey, 50 souls is 50 souls. It actually looks really weak compared to the rest of the stuff, so that's really nice. But anyways, as I was saying, anything that you'd want to mainly use this, you basically want to use this with anything that specifically needs an enrage. Something that's actually going to be able to gain enough damage to be able to go and kill out your enemy in order, or basically you need an attack buff, and then that enrage, which will automatically kill them out. So essentially what we're doing is getting this out the way, going and getting a Devour down, and then we can simply go and just have a ridiculous amount of stats. And now if we just give it an enrage off of doing this ability off of alignment, we'll have everything we need to just one-shot him down. And that is basically the premise we're going for. So exactly as I said, we'll do that. That gives the enrage. We now are within kill range. Enrage also hits through any traits that they may have. So if he was to have skull mitigation, actually he exactly has it. Hey, everything's working perfectly. He has 40% skull mitigation, but he actually doesn't because we have enrage, which hits through it. So even though we don't have the attack damage right now to kill it, we do because it does 1.5 times damage, plus it hits through the traits that he had. But anyways, we'll kill that out. As you'll see after this, we should get our 50 souls, and that will be that. Let's see, 50 souls? Yep, there's our 50 souls. And as well in this new patch, everything now tells you what you got the reward from. So as you can see, there's a spooky imp behind there that says we got the 50 souls from that, which is distinguished from the other 11 souls that we have, which were just from the battle souls. So things like Val Ravens, you've probably already seen doing that, gnomes and other stuff, but every single thing that ever gives you a specific reward, it now has the shadowed image of them behind it, just so you know what actually specifically gave it. The main instance where that would be really relevant, I would say, is Vault Keys, mainly because it gives 4 different drops, 1 from the Cedric and 3 from the gnomes. And sometimes when how bad some of Cedric's drops are, it can be confusing which one is specifically from Cedric and not the gnomes. But anyways, that's that. Let's go just do one more team. As I mentioned, Skull Spam is basically the way to go, so let's go Dwarf Skull Spam. Well, kind of Dwarf, partially. But we're going to be going everything except Glaceon's the Dwarf on this team. But Glaceon, Grimlet, Apothecary, and King Bloodhammer. And essentially same premise, just slightly different team. So right off the bat, ideally we have alignment. And hey, a pet gnome! We're getting all the gnomes. And as I mentioned, the spooky gnome has no effect on actually finding normal gnomes. So as you saw right there, we just went from a spooky gnome right into a normal gnome. So no need to worry about getting less gnomes because they're still around at a decently high rate, or the same rate that they've always been. Okay, so let's go get this up. Obviously, we're entangled. One nice thing about Apothecary, which we'll actually be able to utilize right here, is we have Cleanse. So we can just go and, I guess, get rid of yellow here. Doesn't look like we have an extra turn, so let's go for that. Hopefully don't give him anything too good, and then just throw our ability down. Though it does look like we do not have the board to properly do that on. I might still go for it because it looks like it gets a kill, so we'll still do it. And hopefully have some kind of follow-up. So we have it right there. Not much anything else to do, so we'll just go and try getting a better ability up that might have alignment. And apparently none of that either, so we'll go take that. That'll give us a convert, which also does have alignment, so we'll go for that, get our enrage, get a little bit extra damage. We do not specifically have an attack buff. Well, we do and we don't on this team. We have an attack buff in the sense that it gains attack whenever they take skulls, but that's basically what I'm using as my designated attack buff to make sure that the enrage does enough damage. In this particular battle, we won't be able to utilize that, but that is generally the premise that this team is going off of. But all we have to do is throw another big hit in there. How is none of that next to each other? What do we do with that? Let's see. I guess we'll just take that and see what happens after. So he does get a skull from the cascaded what? Oh, he better not escape. He might actually escape. No, we should be fine. There he goes. He almost escaped with our pet. Let's see what we get out of him. And apparently we got a little mini maw. That's funny. He's also in the Soul Forge right now, the actual thing. But anyways, that is that. If you guys still have any other questions about version 4.1 or anything else you want to ask, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Best of luck with everything that's coming out this week, and I will see you all later. Happy Halloween, and goodbye, everyone!